next question/comment comes from Soundtrack Audio, and it's in response to my overview of the Korg Poly 61, a video I did in November 2021. And this one's an interesting one. It's probably a good idea to try and understand a synth and the basic synth terminology, e.g. Meaning envelope generator. That's really basic stuff before doing a review. Not wishing to be mean, but someone who used to own a Poly 61 back in the day, this is generally shambolic review. I can see that you have it in mono while demonstrating the polyphony has already been mentioned, but it's a serious, misleading, rambling review. Basically, in line with my policy on this channel, I thought it was fair to publish this on the channel. It's fairly reasoned comment without being inflammatory, and therefore is published to the community. Soundtrack Audio then went on to say about the same video, about part 3, and I thought I'd do this together. There's really no point reviewing a synth if you don't understand it. You seem to have a lot of Rolands, so I presume you understand those. So maybe stick to reviewing Rolands. I also have Korgs, and I have other synthesizers as well. Hey ho. The video has a nice quality, but you've managed to really make a really nice sounding synth sound like a Casio calculator, and laughing at pre-MIDI synth for not having MIDI is just an insult. I subscribed, but... Okay, I've already said on numerous occasions that I think I made a bit of a cock-up of the review of the Poly 61. However, and again, in line with the policy of the channel, I am actually posting these to the channel as they are reasoned and they're not inflammatory. But I will say that if you... make a subscription to a channel, any channel, not just mine. That's kind of your personal preference. Like, I have very little influence over it. If you don't like the content, then you know what? You won't subscribe to the channel. If you do like the content, then you subscribe to the channel. And that's kind of the way it works. So while I can't make this particular individual stay subscribed to the channel, I do say several things. One, if I make a cock-up, I put my hands up to it and say, I made a cock-up. And in this case, I did make a cock-up. I didn't have enough time with the synth. Plus, what I've said before about the Poly 61 is a lot of people have said the tones that it makes. I didn't experience that when I was reviewing this particular synthesizer. Now, whether it was because I didn't have enough time and I didn't understand, and some of the buttons, some of the settings were in the wrong place, I genuinely feel though that there was some sort of issue with the synth. Because I've never got it so wrong to what other people think of a synth before now, and I can only assume that the reason why I got it so wrong was because there was something about the model I had that wasn't sounding right to me, and people were saying it sounded awful. And that's the only thing I can say about this. So it is again an unreserved apology for those lovers of the Poly 61, oh my god, I got the burps. Those lovers of the Poly 61 who have written to me saying I made such a mess of it. But honestly, that was the synth, and I didn't have enough time, and I apologise for that. And I'm probably not going to publish any more of these. Bye bye. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. The next one comes from Matija Tomarurik, I think. I'm the world's worst at pronouncing people's names. Anyway, this was in response to the Muse research and the abandonment support, a video I did in December 2018. And he writes, or she writes, "You're making it way too complicated. The reason they went bust is because you can load anything on a laptop with a TB interface and obliterate both Receptor and Kronos. Why would anyone these days want to continue dealing with clunky OS, authorization issues, no screen for a couple of VSTs? An interesting viewpoint, and a lot of people do have this viewpoint, the fact that hardware is dead and software is the way to go. And I've said to you before now, and people who watch the channel know that I'm hardware orientated, although I do think VSTs do have a place to play, and I think also the plugins for DAWs have a place to play. But you shouldn't, my view is, you make music on a keyboard or on an instrument. Let's be more precise. You make music on an instrument and use your computer to enhance it. You don't make music in a computer. And loads of people will probably shout at me for that statement, but that's my belief. You make music on an instrument. What I did say is that this comment is superb in illustrating people's choice. Illustrating people's choice, should I say. Yes, you can do everything on a computer in a VST. But does that not get away from the requirement to upgrade? You still have to upgrade the software. You still have to upgrade the operating systems. If you were using an Apple-based environment in the past few years, you would have needed to upgrade everything that was based on a 32-bit driver and a 32-bit architecture when Catalina arrived, because they cut 32-bit support. If you intended to move to the M1 architecture, the early evidence is there is another round of upgrading, because most of the software at the moment will not support M1 architecture natively. So you think I'll base my environment on Windows. With Windows 11, we no longer know how much. Sorry, I'll start again. With Windows 11, we no longer know how much longer Microsoft will continue to support legacy drivers as well. So I suspect there will be another round of upgrades there. But as you said, it all is not rosy in the dedicated hardware world. I said for a long time the concept of Receptor is brilliant, as it is offloads the VST load from the computer to a dedicated VST player. But with a company going bankrupt, the usability of the platform going forward is potentially limited. I would have had one at the point of this, but I've now purchased another Muse Receptor. Why have I got two? Because I can see the worth of using two Muse Receptors. Okay, the way the Receptor works and the sound it produces is phenomenal, and I can see that. But at the end of the day, I'm not loading my DAW up with VSTs because the Muse is taking doing all the work. Admittedly, it's a shame they've gone bust, because they could have done so much more. A lot of new hardware platforms require a computer to work, and this is true. And again, going back to the Catalina PR exercise, completely cocked up by the number of instrument manufacturers that effectively decided to no longer host the functionality of a 32-bit environment. And therefore, the instrument does not function correctly. The bottom line, as I said, is this is a choice. A choice about how you want to make music. Me, I want to play an instrument. I want to create the sound, and then I'll record it. My preference is to switch on the keyboard and play.